It's been a while since I feel like I've been here, and I don't know why. Why, Sean? Because we haven't done this in a while?
You've been gone.
And you were gone. Oh, excuse you. And you've been gone. And so you were sicker than a dog.
I was.
Are you not sick anymore?
No.
Who helped you?
You.
Thank you. Dr. Cross here. I cure everything with Vicks, ivermectin, shut up, Sean. Hydrochloroquine.
There you go.
But see, you hear about the oxy, but that's not really, it's hydrochloroquine. Okay. And then now there's something new you can add to it if you have a Z-Pack. You know, would you stop? Okay. She was itching. She was making me itch. Anyway. So I feel like I'm a little rusty. And the last thing you've seen is like a ice cream sundae. I don't even think that was on YouTube, was it? That was on TikTok? That was on TikTok. So
I got a lot of views.
I know. I don't understand why people are. I took
It was like 7 seconds.
7 seconds. It was a picture of a sundae, a chocolate shake. People need a life.
Yeah.
Well, you should have a life. You should have followed me around today. It would have been fabulous. You would have got tired of getting in and out of the car. And so, anyway, but we did go to, I went to Rotary. So, anyway, but we're going to talk about miracles. All right, miracles. It's a miracle that we're all here. It's a miracle that there's not a war in the Middle East right now, but it's coming. And what else is there a miracle in? You're a miracle.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'm a miracle.
You definitely are one. India and Pakistan are about to go to war.
Yes.
For people who don't know.
I have been to India and Pakistan, right where the border comes, and let me tell you, it was kind of scary. And there's a big arena it's in the northern part. So there's a big arena in Pakistan, and there's a big arena in India. And what you do is you're on the India side, and they do flag stuff, they do ceremonial stuff. It's like a show. And the Pakistanis are doing the same thing for their tourists on that side. So it's kind of like a back and forth, which was fine. But when we were leaving, I'm telling you, it was, the Indians stampeding around. It was very scary. I'm not usually scared of crowds, but that was a scary thing. And there's a sect of India, they don't like women. And they carry the knives. What are the ones that Shiites? The Sikhs. And they can get on board planes with their knives.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought was very interesting. And I was traveling alone, but with a group of like another woman and a couple. And this man that was taking us around and showing us stuff didn't even acknowledge me. I was persona non grata because wasn't with a man, and I wasn't head of the tour group. So it was just like nobody home. And I thought, well, isn't this interesting? So it was. I hope they don't blow themselves up, because I wanted to go to Pakistan. I know why, right?
India's got the second largest military in the world.
Really? Mm-hmm. Besides China?
Well, it's kind of more powerful. Like if the United States has the biggest military, most effective military in the world, I think India is number 2.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think so, if I'm not mistaken.
I rode elephants in India. It was fun.
Great.
And I did the Denali. It's the celebration of lights.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of fun. But the Taj Mahal is worth seeing.
The Taj Mahal, yeah.
But they should
just falling to pieces?
No.
Or are they keeping it?
Oh no, it's marble.
Wasn't it falling to pieces?
I think they had to do some work on it because they were, a little bit.
But I mean, it's stunning. I mean, it's dropping stunning. And but it should be picked up and put in Texas somewhere, because it doesn't need to be in India. That place was crowded. It's very crowded.
It's a crowded country.
I mean, it's extremely crowded country. So, okay, back to miracles. Okay, miracles. Sean, your mom had a miracle. Would you like to say?
Yeah, my mom, she went in about 3 weeks ago for a CT scan they wanted to do, and they found a blockage in her left main artery. Pretty blocked, like about 90% blockage, and they were gonna operate on her. So last week she went for the operation, and they rescheduled it. Something happened, so they couldn't do it. So Monday she went in for pre-op, and they confirmed it was still there. And then yesterday, Wednesday, she went in. She was going to have surgery, and they went in with a camera to look to see what they were going to remove, and everything was gone. They said they don't know what happened, but there's nothing we can do for you because there's nothing to fix. No blockages, and all your other arteries and stuff had a little bit. They're all clean. Everything's brand new. So that was.
Did they acknowledge that it was a miracle?
Yeah, the doctor was Christian.
Oh, he was a Christian and said it was a miracle?
He said this is a miracle. So.
Now, a lot of people don't believe in miracles. What do you say to them, Mike?
Well, you just look all around. There's all kinds of miracles in the world. I mean, every time, what I've always told people, and you know how I am about religion. I'm not crazy about organized religion. It's easy for me to believe in God because you look at it, nature and everything's so intricate and complicated and everything. It just can't be by accident. So when I look at it, I always think, you know, if you don't believe in God, I don't understand why miracles are all around you all the time.
Well, people, they look at it and they say, okay, there's a tree, there's a palm, there's that, but it's a little more.
It's more to me, I guess, because I was a research biologist. It's a lot more to me.
You chased mice.
Well, it didn't make any difference.
You chased mice and put them in the freezer.
Some of them were no, I had to cut off their toes and let them go.
You cut off their toes?
That's how you mark them, you know. They have.
So if they get caught again?
They have 5, yes. So it was a mark recapture study. So they have 5 on the back, 4 on the front. So when you cut them, you cut off, this one's 1, this was 2, this is 3, this is 4. So when you get to number 4, that's 4 guys that you've clipped. And of course, they're different species and stuff. So you start over with each species. And anyway, it's a mark recapture study. That's how you do population studies.
I'm glad they don't cut our toes
but
off. But
not
for
on people.
population
Yeah,
studies.
it doesn't just count people. You know, they're easy.
Well, especially if they're dead, because then they don't move.
The small mammals are, you know, they're a little bit more hidden. So.
No, jeez. Okay, one of my miracles. I've had 2 miracles that I've had several, but one that I was adopted.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that was a miracle.
Yes.
I mean, because I could have gone a whole lot of different places, but I ended up in as weird as my mom was, I ended up in a pretty good place. You know?
Yeah, but your dad was way cool, so.
Yeah, my dad was way cool. But Mom's the one that told me I was adopted. Hmm. Did you know that?
That she told you were adopted?
Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me.
Well, no, I can't imagine the lamenting over telling somebody, but one of my friend Katie Houston, her mother was the organist at the church. And Katie came to me, she was a couple years older, she goes, I heard your mom and my mom talking, and I was probably 5, that means she was 7. We heard something that you were adopted, and we didn't know, I don't think we knew what that was. I knew what divorce was because I tried to talk my dad into divorcing my mom when we were 5, but I didn't know what adopted was. I know, my dad, I'm not divorcing your mom. Why? What is her purpose? Anyway, so I guess she was talking to my mom about should I tell her? When do you tell kid that they're adopted?
A small child, yeah.
Yeah, when would you tell somebody?
Probably when you're about 13, maybe.
Yeah, but 13, they could hate you a long time.
12 or 13.
Anyway.
They could hate you a long time.
They could hate you a long time after that. But I mean, I remember, I can tell you where I was standing when she told me. We had a rose garden, well, semi-rose garden. excuse me, and she said, we need to talk, and I'm like, okay. And so she was saying, Janie, I want you to know that we love you. I said, well, yeah, I know that. And I want you to know that there are some people that can't have children, and I was one of them. And then there's some people that that can have children, and they don't want them, or they're not wanted, but we wanted you. So she said, I picked you out from 100 other kids. I didn't. It was a private adoption. I found the adoption papers. My dad paid $50, you know, for the attorney to do the papers. But she said, we picked you out because we wanted you. You're a wanted child. And that makes you special. Well, as you know me now, all I heard was special.
Everything else just went out the window.
Everything else. And I'm like, I'm special? Yes, because we wanted you. Okay? And so I thought, well, you know, because there's a lot of kids that are born that aren't wanted. And so I said, well, you? Oh, that's not true.
I think I was one of those. Well,
you think you were one of those?
My mother probably wanted me, but I don't think my dad did.
Why?
Well, I think it was a shotgun wedding kind of thing.
Oh, it was one of those?
Yeah.
Well.
Because, you know, he even to the end of his life, he never really had a lot to do with me.
It's because you were just as good looking as him.
Nobody was as good looking as Charlie.
Well, that's true. Ask him, right?
Yeah. Didn't believe me. Ask him.
Anyway, so I remember being told that I was special, and they, you know, picked me out from 100 other kids. And, you know, I worked at a Methodist church one time, and I was telling the pastor this story, and the Methodist pastor goes, can you believe I worked with your mother-in-law? And
Oh, you did?
I worked with Lois at the First Methodist Church.
Yeah.
And he said, you were probably the one standing up in the bassinet going, hey, over here. Yeah, and
Who told you that, Robert?
I don't remember his name.
Don't remember who it was?
I don't remember his name. I thought he was lame.
If it was Robert, he ended up being the first person from the valley to be a bishop in the Methodist church.
No, I don't know. This guy was pretty lame. And see, I was Methodist for a while, and I'm real faith-based, okay? I truly operate on faith. And Methodists don't quite do that. And so I remember being in a Sunday school class, and I was saying, well, this is, you know, I just do this because of faith, and I know it. And I mean, all the people in the Sunday school class are like, and I'm like, yeah. And so it was pretty interesting. So, but the adoption thing, I thought it was great because that made me special. And probably, I don't know this for a fact, but I probably in first grade I would go around and going, I was wanted, you probably weren't.
A distinct possibility.
A distinct possibility. And so, you know, but, and then as I got older, Mother said one time that she didn't get what she paid for her because I was adopted. And I said, well, you should have paid more.
Actually, she got way more than she paid for. That's what she meant when she said that.
Anyway, so also, a miracle is I guess 4 years ago, I have a real hard time with years, you know. I don't know when somebody died. I don't know what happened. And, you know, supposedly when you hit 50, that's a lot of people, well, back in 2010, this happened. And, you know, and I have no clue. I have no clue of time. I'm real bad with time. What do you think?
Yeah, you're usually on time.
Yeah, I'm usually on time. But I mean, I don't, the spatialness, the space-time continuum, I have a hard time with.
Wow.
Anyway, so sometime in the near distant past, I was moaning around here, so it was in the house, so it must have been 4 years ago or something, when I was like, and I didn't feel good, and my cousin who lived across the street goes, oh, it's just getting older and you need to just take Tums. I'm like, I don't take Tums. And it just kept going on and on and on. And so I was laying in the green room that I have, and I was like, ugh. And Josh comes in and goes, hey, you want me to take you to the emergency room? And I'm like, nah, I'll be all right. You know, if it's not better tomorrow, I'll go. I'll go. And so he did 1,001, 1,002, and then he said, would you like me to take you to the hospital? Yeah, I think so. So he gets me in there, and of course you can't go in with anybody, and so they take me in there, and it turns out that something was 18,000 something or others, because I don't know anything about that either, but I guess I had an infection, or I don't know what it was. And so I was miserable, but I mean, I wasn't like, I didn't have a fever. I wasn't like, usually if you have a gallbladder, people are doubled over in pain, right?
Yes.
We're talking,
Your white cell count was 18,000 is what it was.
Thank you, that's why I have you. Anyway, whatever that means. Anyway, so I go in and they take this, and I'd never been in a ambulance before. So they finally take me in an ambulance and to Rio Grande Regional, and it just so happened that the person that was the CEO, I went from first grade to high school with her. And Chris, I told Chris, I'm coming, and so they called, and talk about a miracle. I guess when you go into the emergency room, you get they assign you a doctor to where you go, or they talk to somebody.
The hospitalist is usually there that takes you in, but then they'll call a specialist depending on what it was. That's how, I talked to one of your doctors who told me this was a miracle that you were alive, so.
Because he knew them. And so I go in, and so I guess I'm in the hospital, and the doctor comes in. But what's the best part? Because I kept telling him I'm one of God's favorites. He goes, yeah. But his name was Angel Tamez, which I just loved. A little short guy had come from San Antonio. And so he goes, I said, well, I probably think I'm going to die. But he goes, you're not going to die. And I'm like, okay. And so they put you under. He comes back. I don't know if it was the next day, that afternoon. I don't remember. And he said, well, you could have died. Really? Yeah. He said, you could have died. You had you had gangrene.
Yep.
And if you had waited a couple more days or another day or two, chances are you would have died. You would have gone septic and you would have died.
Right.
He said it was providence that you were here. Now, for all you people that don't know what providence is, do you know what providence is? I know what you know. Tell us what providence means, Sean. No, I want to hear you say it.
Just tell the story.
Anyway, providence means that you're one of God's favorites, right? And so providence means that it's God's hand, okay? If it's providence, God's hand is in it. And first of all, a surgeon, you've never heard of a surgeon say providence or even acknowledge that there is a God usually, but your mom had one, right? So, I mean, they are out there, but usually most surgeons think they're what? They're God. Yeah. They think they're all that.
They hope the hand of God is helping him.
Well, that's if they
they're
acknowledge.
Christians.
Yes,
that's what
but
they think.
but anyway.
I know quite a few. That's why I'm saying.
Oh, okay, well, but their reputation isn't like that.
No, they like to take credit.
Yeah. Anyway, so he comes in and he tells me that, well, actually, you would have died. I'm like, oh my gosh. And he goes, yes, you had gangrene, and we just took out the part that was gangrene. It hadn't burst yet. So we just took out the gangrene, and they took pictures of it. And so I got to go in the Thursday night thing with Dr. whoever it was. I said, oh my God, I'm going to be a star. My innards are going to be a star. He goes, well, you don't really want to be a star at this meeting, but I was, because it was so weird. And they only took half the gallbladder. They only took the part that had gangrene. I said, well, what does the other part do? Does it just hang out? Does it work? Well, who knows?
Yeah, it works.
Huh?
It works.
Does it work?
Yeah, it works.
I was hoping, because there's no restrictions on greasy foods or anything like that.
So it works.
Take pills or something if it didn't
if it didn't work, yeah.
Well, all I know is that I said, do I have any dietary restrictions? And he said, no. And I said, yeah, I really need dietary restrictions, like, you know, enchiladas or ice cream. No, you're good. Oh, no, man, you can't tell me that. Anyway, so I go, and then I have this, I have a bag. What they did is they took it out, and since there was fluid draining, and so they put this bag on me, and Mike knows because he talked to the doctor a couple of times. And you have, what are those things?
A stent?
No, you know, my ducts, my ducts from my stomach to the gallbladder.
Right.
Most people's ducts are, you know, like
the
that
bile
size.
ducts.
Yeah, the bile ducts are about this size. Okay, that's normal. Because I remember him taking out a pin and goes, it's kind of like a big pin. Most people's about, and then he goes, yours are not. Yours are the size of a pin head. I got itty bitty ducts to go with my itty bitty head. And he said, you'll probably, I said, well, how long am I going to have to wear this thing? And he said, probably 6 to 8 weeks, when in reality, he was really mad about probably a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to tell me. So, I mean, I was filling this thing up, and you'd measure it and fill it up and measure it, and I was walking slow. And anyway, so I come back, and from the time that he put it in till they took it out was exactly 4 weeks and a day. And they were expecting 6 to 8 weeks or longer. So when I went back to Angel, Dr. Angel, he said, you told me you were one of God's favorites. He goes, you have no idea. This is a miracle. He goes, I knew I was going to have to go back in and redo some things. And he goes, anytime you have to go back in, that's a problem. And he said, this is a miracle. If in the office, if he could have picked me up, I think he would have swung me around, because he hugged me and goes, this is a miracle. First of all, doctors don't hug. Well, you hug, but, you know, but not. Have you ever heard a surgeon hug you? He hugged me. And so I am a miracle. I could have died, but no, I'm here to torture you with all my fabulous stories.
And they were measuring the fluid, waiting for it to get down to a certain amount, you know, that she had drainage, and then it got there, you know, in half the time you would expect it to. So she healed faster, even, you know, at an older age, than was like medically possible.
I mean, it was just like, yeah, and I have no scars.
It was way outside the norm.
Yeah, it was way outside the norm. So, you know, so anyway, it was interesting. So miracles. Yeah. I think everyone should expect miracles.
I didn't talk to Dr. Angel. I talked to one of the other doctors.
The gastro guy. The
gastroenterologist that was looking after her, and he said, it's a miracle she's alive. Because I asked, you know, how's Janie doing? You know, my friend Jane. And he said, she's a miracle. And he's a very religious Catholic. Said it's a miracle that she's alive. I don't know how she's alive, based on how bad this was. He said, this is the worst that I've ever seen. And so what she's talking about is they take the case file in with a group of doctors, because they talk about cases quite often, especially stuff they don't see very often or never that happens. And they go in and they discuss it, and everybody kind of oohs and ahs about, you're like, wow, you know, I was
the talk of Rio Grande Regional.
Yeah, right. Not only did you do a great job, but, you know, it's a miracle she's alive. And so that's, you know, like.
Interesting. And so Dr. Tamez, he goes, well, you know, we didn't know you were as sick as you were. Well, that's life in general. People go, I didn't know you were that sick.
I didn't know she was as sick as she was either, but.
You know, because I didn't have a fever, I wasn't doubled over in pain, and anyway, so you guys, miracles do happen, and you expect miracles. I expect miracle with hide and seek. I expect it to be filled up. And if anybody wants to invest in it, we do have investment packets. So please message me and I will get you an investment package. There. So, but so the miracle is that every day is a miracle. You know, it's every day is a miracle.
100%.
And so relationships are miracles. It's amazing anybody can stand anybody.
I've always said children were the biggest miracle, you know. When my daughter got pregnant and things were strange because she'd been married for 4 months, and then her husband decided he didn't want to be married and left. And then she had a baby, and she called and she said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, you have the baby. Babies are a blessing. They're a miracle." And so I have a grandson who's 5 years old. You know, he's a little terrorist most of the time, but, you know, it is what it is, you know. He's still fun.
He's still fun.
Still fun.
Speaking of miracles, today is May 1st, right?
Yep.
And 22 years ago, I adopted Alexis today.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a lot of things that happened in between stuff. So, but it's she's 22 years old, and so I sent her something and said, "You're the best daughter ever," and I sent her some flowers and stuff, and we had some rough patches in there where, I mean, rough patches where things happened, and you know, I always told her that even with different things, that I will always be your mom, you know, because I was. So that's, to me, that's a miracle that I have. And then I have 2 grandkids, which they are miracles, and they're very funny. They're just loud. They're extremely loud. They were here over Easter, and they were loud. And I remember grabbing Max, and he was in the pool. He's 6, right? And he thinks he's suavemente besame. I mean, he thinks he is cute, and he is. And he talks really loud. I'm like, we're all sitting right here. So I'd grab him and I'd open up his mouth and go, "Is there a quiet voice in there? Is there anything can you come out quiet?" And he goes, "No." And I'd yell at him, and he goes, I said, "Can you hold your breath? How long can you hold your breath?" And he goes, 4 or 5 seconds. I said, "You want to hold it for about 10? Let's practice." Anyway, I wouldn't drown him, but he doesn't know that.
Boy, can I tell him some stories.
No, I didn't drown anybody. I saved you a couple of times.
Not from drowning.
No. But your muscles, I saved you then.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the 5, friendship is one of them. I think there's five relationship. One is the friendship thing. I think it's back here at number 5. Oh, look, the friendship principle. So the friendship principle is God is the only one who knows what is in a man's heart. I believe that, right? All right. What's in your heart? You have a heart?
I think that's
Yes, you do.
like man as in the human race.
As the man in the human race. Yeah. One should not expect that a friend knows what is happening inside of him. Okay? And my favorite is, well, you should know. I bet Norma does that to you.
Don't get me started.
I know. Okay, so somebody does something, well, you know, and we're like, nope, don't know what I did. You're going to have to tell me. Can I help you? Anyway, and so therefore you need to understand that friends' communication with one another. I think we communicate well.
Well, we always have.
Yeah, we always have. And, but we're excuse you, we're brutally honest, you know?
But,
And
yes.
I went out with this guy. His name is Bob. He's going to be a friend, but he said communication is the key. If you don't like something, you need to tell them right there. Really, actually, I think that's pretty good. But people don't want to say anything. Why is that? When you're doing relationships,
Well, because
you don't want to hurt your feelings.
Some people are very sensitive, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And men have no understanding of women whatsoever. They have no idea. Men work off of logic, and I'm going to say you're an exception, but women work off of emotion. I've been around you long enough, and probably the reason we're such good friends is, to me, you've always been one of the boys. I know you're a girl.
Well, I am a drag queen trapped in a woman's body.
We can go with that if you like. But I think that you've been around so many males, you know, growing up through college and everything and dealt with so many men that you have a better understanding of men than men have of women. I mean, even you still are a woman, so you still are a little bit of a mystery occasionally, but not as much as a lot of the ones I know.
Right?
Yeah, no, I'm serious. That's true. That's why we get along so well.
At church on Sunday, or a couple of Sunday ago, in the near distant past, there's that time thing again that I'm having a real problem with, time. I missed whatever it was. Phil at my church had his dad, who's a pastor in Harlingen, and he came down and they sat up on the stage and they just talked back and forth. And they were talking about relationships. And he said that when they were talking about confronting people, and his dad goes, yes, men are like women are like a box. Just a box, and it's got emotion everywhere and logic, everything's mixed up, all right? Men have a box, but it's in grid. So if something happens, and something happens in the morning and you had a discussion with your significant other or whatever it is, and she takes it and jumbles it around all day, and a man will take it and put it in a box.
In one of the squares.
In one of the squares. So when they come back, and we'll talk about it later, so when he comes home, hey, honey, I'm home, and she goes, well, have you thought about it? And he's like, thought about what? Well, you should know. Okay, I don't know. And so we're not supposed to assume that they'll know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say we work off of logic and we tend to prioritize things. So some small thing that means that a lot to a woman but seems like a very small thing to us gets put into one of the boxes and you don't think about it. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Dealing with Norma.
Yeah.
Because she's like that. And I mean, she's not different than other women that I've dealt with. I mean, except for you.
Thank you.
But she tends to let things ferment. And I'm kind of like, well, why is this a big deal?
Well, Phil has a 4-day rule. If you don't confront somebody within 4 days of what had happened, King's exits off. So if you can't talk to somebody about it in 4 days, then it wasn't that important to begin with. And so if you don't confront them, it's a 4-day rule. And I think that's a great rule.
Well, and I think women would be better served instead of being emotional and putting a dent in my head with a skillet.
It's kind of warm in here, and I'm going to step it up here. So keep talking. I'm listening.
It would be better to explain why this is a big deal to you, because there's been times that she's explained things to me, and I'm like, okay, I understand that. The moaning and groaning and getting angry and stuff, I didn't understand that. But this explanation, I do understand that. So, yeah, you're right. That's probably something I shouldn't have done, blah, 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 should have thought about before, or something I said, or should have thought. So I think if they would explain, and I'm talking about women in general, this is why this is a big deal. This is why this is a big deal to me. Because if I look at it and I don't think it's a big deal, and you're screaming and hollering at me, it's just like in one ear, out the other, and I'll probably do it again.
But I think that's the 4-day rule. What do you think?
But
about
the communication thing is the key. That's
he said basically communication. What do you think?
I think women will wait till the last minute on day 4.
Probably.
But I always tell people, think of men and their brains as a conveyor belt, and the man standing at the end, and he can open one box at a time and process one box at a time. It doesn't matter what order they're in, because he can shift them if he needs to when they're coming down the conveyor belt in the order of importance. But once it gets to him, He's opening that box, dealing with what's in it.
That's a
and
good. That's a
closing it.
good analogy. That's a good analogy.
You're so smart, Sean.
Shauna. That's,
But women,
oh
they
no,
don't
we.
have boxes. They have balls of yarn that connect to everything, and they throw them everywhere.
Balls of yarn.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true. I try not to do that. I mean, every once in a while, but I'm not really a whole lot like that.
Well, and the other thing, and I found this, and people are starting to get this, and I think women are starting to get a little bit more. But the younger generation, I'm not sure they get it. Maybe they do. Is you can't gauge your happiness based on someone else. The other thing you can't do is you can't expect other people to think or be like you. So if you do that, you're always going to be disappointed. And I think that's a big thing. Once you realize that and you respect the other person and maybe the way they think, once you start to understand how they think, and I think that makes a big difference in how you view other people. I mean, there's things with friends and family and that I don't like about them. Everybody has that. There's things about people that you don't like. Yeah. there's a few things.
Yeah.
But those are things that you have to look over and remember who it is and what they mean to you and things like that, and put those things aside, and you don't dwell on that.
Okay. Do you think like family over friends? I mean, here Proverbs says friends can destroy one another, but a loving friend can stick closer than family.
That's it's funny that you're even talking about this, because I was thinking about this like 3 or 4 hours ago.
Really?
Yes, because I was thinking about, yeah, exactly, how much closer I am to you than my biological sister, who I didn't see for 20 years and then went and saw, and was glad that I did because I hadn't seen her in a long time. I love my sister, but I don't have a lot in common with her. And you remember Carla.
Yeah, I know Carla.
Carla's a badass.
Yeah, I mean she could whip all of us with one hand tied behind her back. And she's this tall.
Yes, she's she weighs maybe 125 pounds sopping wet, and you can't get me to get in a fight with her. She's always been tough as nails, but we weren't close. We're 8 years apart in age, and I didn't really create a lot of problems for my parents or my stepfather. My mother was remarried, and so I spent a lot of time with my stepfather. But Carla did. I mean, she ran away 6 or 7 or 8 times. Oh, yeah. And she would get off a bus in Arizona, and my mother would be standing there saying, okay, he's going to jail, because she always was with a boy. He's going to jail, and you're coming back to Texas. And they would negotiate, and then he didn't have to go to jail, but she still had to come back to Texas. So
wow.
He tried to outsmart, she tried to outsmart Mom, but she created a lot of problems for him. And so I always had a little bit of animosity about her doing that, because I thought it was just, you're being foolish. You got everything you could possibly want. I mean, she wanted a horse, they bought her a horse. Everything all the time. But then she moved to Oklahoma when she was with my stepbrother Steve. You remember Steve?
Yeah.
When she was about 19, and she had been in Oklahoma forever. So I didn't have a lot of contact with her, so I wasn't really close to her. So I've always been closer to you than her. You've always been more family to me than she.
Well, I don't have a whole lot of family.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm an only child. The closest thing that I had was with Nancy.
Yes.
And she was kind of like my sister, and then she moved.
And she was difficult too.
Well, she could be difficult, but but it's always just been very strange, because I haven't had a lot of family, and being an only child, in case you're an only child, get over your cheap self, okay? You got to do more things with your parents, because they didn't have to split up the money. They could do all this kind of stuff, and chances are you're a little smarter because you had to figure out things. Also, if you weren't nice, you wouldn't have any friends. And if you didn't know how to share, they wouldn't come and see you. So you had to learn to share, be nice, and just basically, and not tell the people on the playground, what would Jesus do? Because I did that too.
I think the point of it is you can have friends that are as close as family and think of them as family.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
I think of you as family. You're my family.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
had said too. You know, I mean, and some of the things that we've done together and watched out for each other and stuff like that, you know, it's something I would have done and would still do for, you know, family member.
Yeah.
They
Anyway.
they always say blood is thicker than water, but I never really understood that because I don't have a lot of family either, and I've always made my own family with my friends, but I don't think it matters what kind of relationship you're in, family, friend, or romantic. If you want to like the other person, and
There's certain things you expect,
you have
though.
to be their friend.
Yeah.
Yes,
Either
yes,
way,
yeah,
you
I
still
agree.
have to build a friendship.
100%.
A lot of people don't build friendships
Right.
with their family members or even their spouse, which they should, because that should be your best friend.
You would think so, right?
I don't want to be stuck with somebody that I can't stand.
Well, I think if you can find anybody you can stand for more than, 15 minutes, that's a miracle in itself.
It's working the right direction.
It's a work in the right direction. My friend Bob, and the one that I had the date with, he said something just so funny. Well, he got married, and he said he knew 2 weeks into the honeymoon. Okay, 5 more minutes. He knew 2 weeks into the honeymoon. I told him I was going to use this because I thought it was he goes, and I think he was ready for a relationship. So when this came along, he grabbed onto it, and then I think they were gone for 3 months. But 2 weeks he knew. And he said, I hoped myself into some shit.
We all do that.
Yeah, isn't that great? I thought that was the greatest thing. I hope myself into some shit. So you don't make sure that what you think that you need and you settle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think
You settle.
people do that a lot of times, but I think there might be something like in that situation right there where it says, well, I hoped myself into some shit. It's kind of like there's a lot of things I like about this person, but there's a couple of things that make me want to turn and run the other direction. He should probably listen to him what he's saying.
I think he's doing that, and I think that's why I'm not. I don't have a boyfriend right now.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're right.
And about the time I think I want a boyfriend, something happens. I'm like, oh no.
I think you not having a boyfriend is charitable of you. Because when you have boyfriends or when you get married,
I know. I don't know what happens
turns
to.
to shit real quick.
I don't know what
I don't
happens.
Know. Can I say shit on this?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Anyway, so anyways, that's my friend.
Yeah. The one who,
They're more honest.
she said it.
I know they're more honest, and it says, so you guys believe in miracles. Believe that God puts people in your path to help you, not to harm you. And and if that little voice goes off and says, "Warning, warning, warning," you need to pay attention, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you, Mike, for coming again. And I'm glad that you're well. Shauna, thank you that your mom had a what? What?
Shauna.
You call me Shauna all the time.
I know. Well, you told me I could call you Shauna.
I know. I think it's funny though because they'll probably think I'm trans.
No, he's not trans. He's not trans. Sean is a
Definitely.
man.
I like Shauna though.
And so, but I've talked to you about how my best friend passed away, and her name was Donna, and Sean was being nice. Well, he says, "Well, I'll be your Shauna,"
That works.
and that works. And so it's a
I
term.
have many nicknames.
I don't need to know this. Anyway, so just know that there's miracles all around, and if you need a miracle, ask for a miracle. And I'm asking for a miracle for hide and seek. So please know that you're loved, and please subscribe, like, and share. Ask questions if you have anything. Remember, I can talk about anything to anybody most of the time. And I won't be vulgar, because I don't like that.
Oh, and
What?
this space-time continuing
Yeah.
thing, I'm going to get you one of Einstein's books so you can read it and understand it.
Oh, please, thank you. With a dictionary.
All time is happening at all times.
All time is happening at all times.
Correct.
This is very too deep for me, so I'm signing off. You guys have a wonderful week, and here's till the next time. Jane, remember the name. We're gonna boogie.